There's a commonly overlooked strategy that Steve Jobs used to scale Apple to become a $3 trillion company, $3.12 trillion company, I think, at the time of me doing this video. And I want to break it down for you in this video. So regardless of where you are as a CEO or founder, you can actually begin to apply this into your business starting today. Right? He understood that's something that most business owners just don't understand. So let me break this down to you step by step, and I'm going to show you this whole journey. First of all, let's do it this way. So when Steve first launched his company, he had a partner, a gentleman named Steve Wozniak. He had his genius, and then of course, my man Steve had his particular genius. Fast forward, what he ended up doing he ended up hiring a CEO. So he went and got the guy from Pepsi, John Scully, to actually come in as CEO, because Steve was like, my greatest skill set is not that of being a CEO. I'm a visionary. My specialty, my skill is selling and storytelling, not being a CEO. That's just not how my brain is wired. So when he got to a point where he can bring somebody in, that's what he went and did. Now, fast forward, unfortunately, this CEO ended up firing Steve, and he ended up going out and building something else. And then Apple began to fail, and they actually, the CEO that they ended up bringing on, one of the first things he did was actually bring Steve back, a new CEO. And Steve came back in. And again, he zoomed in on one specific area that helped take Apple to a whole nother level. And that's what I want to walk you through in this particular video. So if you think about it, regardless if you are an Apple fan or Apple user or not, if you think about the iPad, the iPhone, or any of those specific things, Steve Jobs didn't create or design any of these things. This gentleman right here named Johnny Ives did. He was specialized in product design. So what does it got to do with anything? Let me walk you through this before I kind of show you this whole thing so you can kind of see how it all plays out. So let's jump over to my whiteboard really quickly. And what you're going to realize is, if you think about, a lot of times in business success in general, we can actually pull a lot from nature. So if you think about a beehive, in a beehive, what is the queen bee's role? So we're going to call this we'll make it orange because for the honey, right? We'll call this a beehive. And if you look at the queen bee in a beehive, we'll call this the queen bee, right? Don't judge my drawing. So this is the queen bee, right? The other bees in the hive, their number one job is to what? Their number one job is to protect the queen bee. The queen bee's number one role is to produce eggs, right? So Steve understood this concept, I think made famous by this gentleman named Michael Michalowicz. He talks about this idea of a QBR. So in your business, as the CEO, as the founder, how much time are you investing in your QBR, your queen bee role? So we work with a lot of business owners, and what we find is that a lot of times they're focused in on every other area. But how would your business change if 80% of your time was focused in on your particular zone of genius? And this is what Steve Jobs understood. So let me break this down to you step by step. So Steve was like, my thing isn't product design. He used this guy named Johnny Ives. He let him double down on this. So a lot of the technology that Apple uses wasn't created by, none of the technology was created by Steve Jobs, but a lot of the iPad that we know, the iMac, all those different things were created by this guy because he was head of product design, right? And this is one of my favorite quotes from him. He said, our goal is to try to bring a calm and simplicity what are incredibly complex problems so that you're not aware really of the solution. You're not aware of how hard the problem was that actually evolved. That's one of my favorite quotes. And then you got this guy named Tim Cook to be over operations, because he was like, that's not my zone. Let me bring somebody in and let him handle this. So Tim Cook is actually now the CEO of Apple. So again, Steve isn't here anymore, but because he designed this and he focused on his QBR and bringing in legends to focus on that particular area, the company continued to still soar without him. And then he brought in a guy named Phil Schiller, who was focused on marketing, right? Yes. Steve is like, okay, who do I have focus on? So he can focus on his QBR. And then guess what? Now he can bring these other geniuses in and they can focus in on their QBR. And then brought in a guy named Eddie Q. Eddie Q was solely focused on services and creating content. Services and content. So now you have a team of individuals who are focused in on their zone of genius. And then he brought in a guy named Scott Forstall. Scott Forstall, primary role is what? Focus on the software, making the software, the iOS, as functional, as operationally efficient and excellent as possible. So now my man Steve can focus solely on vision and storytelling because he knows this is his gift, vision and storytelling. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take some time after watching this video, before you go watch another video. What I want you to do is I want you to sit down and I want you to get very, very clear on what's your zone of genius. In your business, what's your zone of genius, right? So for our company, my biggest thing is creating content, creating IP, teaching. My gift is teaching. So that could look like teaching in content like this. That could look like teaching on podcasts. That could look like teaching on stages. That could look like teaching in developing team members, right? Our leadership team, whatever that may look like. That's my gift. That's my highest leverage. That's my highest offering to the company. So 80 to 90% of my time is focused in on that. And we design my schedule around that, the whole 9 yards, and the team protects me around being able to do that. So I can produce those eggs. What is yours? I love to know yours in the comment section. Let me know that. If you don't know what it is, really sit down, really think about it. Because a lot of times CEOs, founders, we get pulled into so many different areas and we focus on so many things that we actually lose sight of what our true genius is. So that's what I want you to think about right now. Really carve out some time, block out everything and think about it. And if you already know, leave a comment below. Leave a comment below. Let me know. And you never know. You might see some individuals in the comment section, or some individuals who look at the comment section might see your reply and they might reach out to you because they actually need it. All right, so go ahead and do that right now. Go implement this. Go implement this. Again, I don't create these videos for education purposes. I create them for implementation purposes, because implementation is what leads to transformation. Go do that right now, and we'll talk soon.